A clean slate. The starting point, the beginning of all beginnings. That's what minimalism is. The aesthetic monotony underlying this concept is constantly updated and adapted to different eras, but always remains an integral part of the fashion industry. The term minimalism was born in the depths of the art movement that emerged in the 1960s in New York. Then a group of artists, including Donald Judd, John McCracken and Agnes Martin, rejected traditional notions in painting and sculpture and decided to adhere to a new style requiring maximum brevity. Actually, this also applies to the aesthetics that exist in fashion, in the context of which minimalism focuses more on form and fabric than on the function of clothing. Reductivist designers cut out superfluous elements, and often play with lines and geometric shapes in a monochrome palette. In clothing design, such trends emerged as a response to the wastefulness of the 1980s, a time of excess where more meant better. Issey Miyake, Yohji Yamamoto and Rei Kawakubo were the first adherents of the laconic philosophy in the late 1980s, the time when minimalism began to turn into a conceptual aesthetic. The three Japanese designers were moving away from the rules according to which clothes were treated as an expression of status. Their influence is hard to underestimate. They provided a meaningful alternative to glitz and glamour, and revolutionized the perception of clothing once and for all. Over time, several types of minimalism have emerged. Major design houses such as Donna Karan and Armani opted for chic and clean purism, while younger designers and smaller brands opted for more conceptual trends. Now the minimalists of the 90s can be divided into two camps: theorists and formalists. The main minimalist was Martin Margiela. Margiela was the standard-bearer of the group of minimalist deconstructivists, who were concentrated on the most important design elements: fabric, cut and drapery. Maison Martin Margiela became known for its clear methods of deconstruction and transformation, in which volumes are reinvented and forms are changed. Margiela has always focused on brilliant technical execution. Rei Kawakubo can be dubbed the mother of theorists, who in addition to Margiela include Demeulemeester and Helmut Lang. The Japanese austerity is clearly evident in the way these designers approached fashion. For them, the design process was more an exploration of the garment than the body. Queen Demeulemeester of Antwerp debuted her monochrome collections in 1987, but did not show them for the first time in Paris until 1992. Her minimalism was experimental, deconstructed. She cut and assembled pieces of clothing, playing with gender concepts. The unisex style goes back to this decade, and with fabrics, silk, wool, leather were used together on new silhouettes where black dominated. Helmut Lang was the driving force of 1990s minimalism. When he showed his first collection in Paris in 1986, his designs started a new wave of minimalism and Lang instantly became its star. He emphasized structured forms, almost absolute in their simplicity. Going back to the formalists, this area was dominated by Jil Sander. Her approach to minimalism itself was extremely simple: a clean cut and luxurious fabric. For the Formalists, minimalism was not so much an academic practice as an attempt to create purely functional clothing. Every element that went into a piece of clothing, silhouette, color, fabric, was thought out by the designer, so that in the end the wearer could look sophisticated, without effort. This way of working led Calvin Klein to the expansion of American fashion. Klein's minimalism was to focus on simple lines that emphasized the person rather than the garment. Klein also brought sexuality to minimalism. Of course, he partly made a name for himself through explicit advertising campaigns, but in any case, the main goal remained the same. If sexuality is about a woman and not about clothes, then naturally it follows that the clothes should be as simple as possible. This approach to fashion was adapted by Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy, Director of Public Relations at Calvin Klein, who became a minimalist style icon of the 1990s. But that's another story altogether. Don't forget to subscribe to hear it. Your Valerie.